Disclaimer: the content of this podcast is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Users should not disregard or delay in obtaining medical advice for any medical condition they may have, and should seek the assistance of their healthcare professionals for any such conditions. And now...
Yeah, we don't want to do anything to scare your children. That's the last thing we want to do. We don't want to scare anybody.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ben and Amy on The Heavy Truth.
Hello.
How are you?
Good.
Good.
Welcome back.
Welcome back. Yes, I know we kind of ran over on our last episode about talking about the GLP-1 craze, right? And the diabetic medications versus the weight loss medications. And so I thought we should just continue that topic, but just focus now mostly on discussing more about the weight loss medications side of things.
Just the specific indicated medications. Yeah. And just to clarify, we're obviously on no time restraint as far as our podcast, but we do value everyone's time. And I know from this is me personally speaking with my ADD, if I have a podcast that's longer than 30, 45 minutes, like I tune out. So we really have to meat and potatoes, here.
She also had to pee.
What?
I said you also had to pee.
Well, that's accurate, but that's always.
Well, that's true.
Yeah. And if I'm listening to a podcast, I can just run right to the
Yeah, that's true.
toilet myself.
Yeah.
But the GLP-1 craze, yeah, it's a big deal. It is.
Did you see Oprah? Did you see how skinny Oprah is now? And then she finally said that she is on a GLP-1. Well, good for her, Miss Oprah.
She does look great.
Yeah,
she does. And, but there's so many.
But I'll tell you, she's not taking that and eating wings and beer and a pizza, right? Her personal chef or whoever.
That's what I was going to say, right.
She's having a roasted beet salad, sitting on her deck,
Yeah, with some grilled chicken.
And sparkling water with lemon squeeze in it, right? I mean,
absolutely.
But she looks awesome.
She does.
Good for her, Miss Oprah.
She does look good.
Yeah.
I've always liked Oprah.
I ran into her once at Woodfield Mall. No, Water Tower. Sorry, it was Water Tower. What? I literally ran into her like full boom and knocked the packages out of her hand. I was so horrified.
I was on her show twice.
Yeah. As a guest?
No, as an audience member. But she shook my hand. I know. Yeah.
I love her.
I know.
Yeah.
Way to go, Oprah.
Way to go, Oprah. Thank you for being the face of... Well, she was the face of Weight Watchers or WW, whatever that's called now. But, good for you.
But there's so many Judge Judys out there, and a lot of...
No offense to the actual Judge Judy, who I love.
Oh, love her too.
But there are a lot of Judge Judys out there.
There is.
Because not Judge Judy's, period. Guys, you all know Judge Judy's on everything, right? You're overweight, we're judging you. We had a bariatric surgery, we're judging you. We're on these medications, we're judging you. F off.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Nobody judges somebody if they're on, high blood pressure medications or thyroid medications or,
Yeah, how about that?
Right.
What's your hypothyroid? Oh, no.
And you're taking meds for it?
You're taking meds for it?
Right. So, once that stigma is improved, we're going to it's going to be better, but for now we're in it. And, again, I like statistics, and I would say probably over 50% of my patients do not tell anybody that they're on medications in fear of, being ridiculed or
100%. Yeah.
Which
I
is
have patients
sad.
that say the same thing. Or I have patients that talk, that
you're taking the easy way out. You're on meds.
You're taking the easy way out. I've got news flash for you. Weight loss, no matter what road you're taking, is never an easy way out. And stop telling people that struggle with obesity stupid things like, you have such a pretty face. You don't need to lose weight. Maybe you just need to stop eating as much as you eat. Maybe you should have a salad.
Eat less, move more.
Less.
It's a chronic disease, people.
Yeah.
It's a metabolic dysfunction.
Maybe you diabetics should stop eating candy. But you don't tell people that.
Right. Can you tell we're very passionate about this topic?
Irritates me.
Yeah, same. Yeah. So I think that's why you and I have a good relationship with our patients, because we are very transparent with our struggles with
100%.
obesity.
Yeah.
And, you know, when I tell people that, you know, at one point I was over 100 pounds heavier than I am now, you know, they're like, oh my gosh, no way, really? Like they have no idea, you know? So, but I tell them that for a couple reasons. Number one, you know, they see me, they walk in and they're like, oh, how is she going to be able to help me? You know, right?
Right.
And I want, like, I understand, I get it. I understand what you're going through. And they're like, do you? Initially, right? So then I tell them.
But do you?
I do. I do. Very much. And I think that's why another reason I'm a little bit, let's say, more strict with some of my requirements for my patients, because I do want them to have long-term success.
Like tracking?
Tracking.
Very, very. I always tell people that. I tell these are the exact words I say to them. I understand the struggles with weight loss. I don't have my patients do anything more than what I myself don't currently do. I track every day using a calorie tracking app. I take my GLP-1 medication every Monday, once a week. I do everything that I try to do to keep
You
myself.
exercise.
I exercise, yeah. So I also like going to the gym to people watch, but I exercise while I'm there, and I just don't stand around looking cute in Under Armour stuff and
like your Spanx, like your tight shorts.
Yeah, right, exactly that. I mean, I do stand around looking like that, but usually I'm running on the treadmill or something, doing it. But yeah, for sure. But the tracking app, and I know we've talked about GLP-1, but you know what? I'm going to encompass this to just all what we do, what Amy and I do, and what we teach our patients in order to make these GLP-1s be successful, right? For everybody. Is that I don't know what app you use, Amy, personally. I think I do, because I think we do a lot of the same. I said, I use an app called Berrytastic. Now, again, this is not a promotion. I am not getting anything from Berrytastic or Bariatric Advantage who have combined with this, but I use an app called Berrytastic, Baritastic. Why? Because it was geared for patients who have had bariatric surgery. However, it is still a really good platform for people that just want to track calories, because it talks about calories, carbs, proteins. It shows charts. It has a really good system that allows me to look at what I'm doing, track what I'm doing, and it also provides, reports that allows me to help my patients.
Yeah, you can take photos.
Yeah.
They have friendly recipes. And you're right, it was initially for bariatric surgery. I found this app a few years ago.
And it's
have
free.
been using it. It's free.
There isn't a buy-in. You don't have to. You can. You don't have to. You can use it, and it's entirely free.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, patients then send reports to us. We review them, which is super important. But there's
And by the way, that's supportive data when we go to prescribe these weight loss medications, right?
Yeah.
That's all data saying what you're doing, right? Insurance companies and everything else is looking at what is the patient doing. And by the way, did you find, I recently heard about this, and I think it was on the Facebook group that we talked about.
that I got in trouble on.
That you got in trouble on,
Yeah.
That you were naughty and I had to come to your defense, and now I'm sure they're like, oh, this bitch. Meaning me, not you. That's fine. I'm okay being that bitch.
Yeah.
But many insurance companies, someone that I was discussing who works in prior authorization said that many insurance companies now are requiring that the patient be in a weight loss program of some sort in order to have these medications.
Yep. Absolutely. Yep. I'm seeing that more and more. I do incorporate that in my notes.
Same.
But
It's different for us because it comes from our program, which is considered, already. But yeah, I do. Yeah. And another thing with the GLP-1s or any weight loss medication is that insurance companies do require a percentage of weight loss within the time of that prior authorization. So unfortunately, I've come across that people who have had it prescribed by other ones that are not weight loss specialists will come and have been on the medication for a few months. I'm changing the dose. And then I see when the prior authorization ends and they haven't met that 5%. Literally, it's from the day that it is prescribed, your weight is, by your insurance company, is recorded. And then you have X amount of time, whatever the insurance company says, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months to lose usually it's 5% of presenting weight. And if you don't, then they don't allow another prioritization, which means the medication is now, if you want to continue it, is paid full price out of pocket. Because I think this is my own opinion, I think they look at it this way. If we're prescribing a medication and we are reimbursing that medication, which normally costs $1,200, and I'm picking it up for $25 from the pharmacy, what am I doing with it if I haven't lost any weight or 5% of that weight loss, right? And so they're like, well, we're not going to cover this anymore because you're not doing anything with it. It's a waste of time. Which I guess it shouldn't be, right? Because like we said, it's a chronic disease. And if they're making those changes, sometimes it's not always going to be that 5%. I think it should be looked at like reflectively what they've been doing and changing, but.
And looking at lab values too, because I love looking at those too. And even if somebody hasn't lost as much weight as maybe I thought they would have or could have, but then I'm seeing an improvement in their blood sugars and their liver enzymes and their cholesterol, that's a win, you know?
Absolutely, that's a win.
And I have had prior auths approved with those improvements, even though they haven't met their percentage of loss.
But there is a loss, right? It's not like after 6 months or 4 months or 5 months, there's no loss, right? And I think that's why the biggest thing that when you said that on that group, you know, that we don't start off just giving out these meds because we want to see we have to make some changes. We meaning myself, right? I could use the med that I'm on till I'm blue in the face, but if I'm not changing anything, it's not going to do anything.
Right. And it's not the, you know, I want you to be on a, 1,000-calorie diet and you're only having, broiled chicken and broccoli. I'm talking about.
That's sad.
I'm talking
I
about.
do like broiled chicken and broccoli, but.
I'm talking about reduce your soda intake. Reduce your fast food intake by half. Make some changes.
Yeah. Consistently eat 3 meals a day.
Yeah. Yeah. Can we talk about that too? And how people come in?
But yeah, people come in not eating and they're like, well, I don't understand.
Yeah, why I don't lose weight. Yeah, that is a whole nother topic about how important it is to eat.
And the biggest thing with these GLP-1s, right, is that one of the it can reduce appetite, but because it slows that gastric emptying, it keeps us fuller longer. So then I'll have some of the patients that say things like, well, I'm skipping meals because I'm not hungry, right? I still let them know they still need to try to eat something, right? Now, I throw this back right to myself. I tell them, I've had bariatric surgery and I'm on a weight loss medication. I'm never hungry, but I make sure that I'm eating consistently 3 meals a day. And they don't have to be big sit-down meals, right? But I'm eating consistently protein-forward 3 meals a day to make sure that I'm fueling my body so I'm not running on fumes, right?
And you're not losing muscle mass, which is another thing with these GLP-1s.
Yes, right. And they're good medications, right? But again, they cause all of those certain side effects, the GI upset, the diarrhea, the nausea, right? And I don't say it all has to do, but a lot of it has to do with the diet that's going along with it. Some people, right, don't tolerate these medications, right? Just like any other medication, people don't tolerate it. Or, there are reasons why we don't want to prescribe that medication, right? If you have a history of medullary thyroid cancer or pancreatitis, right? There's a few things where we prefer not to prescribe those medications, right?
Yeah, they're just contraindicated, and there's contraindications to like all medications. So that's why, making sure you're well-versed on these medications is super important for our patients to keep them as safe as possible and to choose the right medication for the patient.
Yeah. Do you think, so here's a question I'm going to ask you that I'm sure people have said, which one's the best?
Well, I can't say that there is any that I've seen that are the best because for some medications, it may work better with somebody else than it would the next person, right?
For sure.
But statistically speaking, the GIP or the GLP-1s and the GIP, which is the Zepbound, they have a higher percentage of loss, but they work in multiple ways, like we discussed in our last podcast, So it's not just an appetite suppressant, it works in multiple ways. So you're going to get improved loss
Right.
So I usually work it as, depending on where people are as far as how much weight they have to lose or where their BMI is, or what kind of past medical history and other medications they've tried for weight. That's why getting a good history is super important because, my treatment is going to change from patient to patient. It's never the same. I never go towards the same medication all the time.
Yeah.
So because everybody's individual and you have to.
Now the education is going to be the same.
Yeah.
Right? Talking about
Absolutely.
How things look, side effects, how things like that. But you're right. It's all patient dependent. Right? And I keep throwing that back. We're not one of those. You and I are not the kind of providers that you walk through the door and everyone gets a med, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because insurance plays a part into it too. But I mean, you also have to look at, health history, right? And what's contraindicated for these medications, right? And so sometimes they might seem walking in talking that they're a good candidate, but then when you start looking at the health history, you realize XYZ why we can't prescribe this, right? Or shouldn't prescribe this.
Yeah.
Now, sometimes the patients still want it. Do the benefits outweigh the risks? Well, yes. Then at that time, I reach out to the other specialties to see what their thoughts are on things,
Yeah. Now, example of, let's say XYZ, why something could be changed. Well, let's say somebody was on Saxenda, which is a daily dosed medication, but they did horrible on it because, number one, they weren't changing their eating habits. They had severe GI upset, diarrhea, vomiting, whatever it was. But they also have a BMI of 48. They're pre-diabetic, no history of any contraindicated cancers. I will put them back on it again, but they will be making sure that they are tracking, they're changing their dietary habits. So that's a situation where I have restarted people on these medications and they do amazing once they know what they should be doing.
Right. And I've done the same. And I've said that. I've seen in the history, I say, I've seen you've been on this. How? And they were like, well, it wasn't successful. And then I'll ask why. And then when they start telling me why, then I see that the education wasn't there. They didn't do the changes. And then like the same, then I prescribe the medication. I prescribe it this time rather than the outside provider, wherever they came from, with the thought of, with the education behind it, with the thought of what the expectations are as we move forward. And my biggest thing to them is, like you had said, it's always progress. It's never perfection. And it's never going to be perfect, right? And for any of you listening, or even myself, to think it's going to be perfect, it's never going to be. There's always going to be a birthday, an anniversary, a Christmas, a New Year's, a Hanukkah, something. But every day can't be that day.
Right.
With these medications, they're great. They are great, just like the bariatric surgeries. But they're a tool, because I'm sure we all watch TV, or we all know that person that has had these surgeries, have been on these medications, and either gain all the way back or aren't doing what needs to be done and want to stop it right away because they're having the side effects because of the fact that they aren't doing what needs to be done for themselves.
No, absolutely. And I even think some of our bariatric surgeons are a little nervous with how well these medications are helping patients. And we've seen some lower numbers of surgeries, but oftentimes whenever I have a patient that's bariatric appropriate, I always talk about it. I always bring it up. I say it's gold standard. That's,
It is a gold standard for BMI of 40 or more.
Yeah, right. So, but sometimes you can't turn that person. Like, they are just hell-bent. Nope, I'm not having that done. I want to try medications first.
And that's fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
That's completely fine. I think I want to let people know that at least with Amy and I, I can't say with every program. I know from our experience, right, when they come to see me, and I know Amy because we practice very similarly, as we have said in this pod before, we're there to help guide you where you want to go. We have suggestions, but we guide you where you want to go in your weight loss journey, which is what it should be, right? Because it's your journey. Because ultimately, it becomes the visits become further and further out. So ultimately, it's it falls back on our own, like myself as a patient, it falls back on me to keep my journey going, right? And
we're there to watch over you medically to make sure that you're doing it in a healthy way.
A healthy, right? We want to make sure that you're doing a healthy weight loss, right? Like Amy said, you don't want that muscle wasting. We don't want to have, all your hair falling out and, your teeth falling out, things like that. Poor sleep, all of that is tied together, which we'll talk about in other podcasts, but these GLP-1s are great. Are they a miracle drug? Like, everyone seems to think. I mean, in a sense that they are. They help with weight loss, but realistically, people need to understand, and that's what frustrates me the most, is that all of these things out in the media are not accurately saying that this needs to be done with, lifestyle modifications, right? By nowhere do they say diet. They say lifestyle modifications. So, for example, Cleveland Clinic, I pulled up an ad. I pulled up an ad from them. They say that the GLP-1s are great. They're effective. They are effective tools for management, combined with things like, and they say, dietary changes, exercise, behavior modification programs, and bariatric surgery. So again, these are all tools. And now this is coming from the Cleveland Clinic, which is a very renowned clinic, right? That is a very research-oriented, just like people have heard, like Mayo Clinic, right? Has the same beliefs, right? So the Obesity Medicine Association has their pillars of obesity, right? And all of these things are all supported by these, and recently, what was it? The American Heart Association came out and backed the use of these GLP-1s for cardiac risks.
Yeah, because they're cardioprotective. Yeah, so a lot of cardiologists are really jumping on it too. But the thing is, a lot of cardiologist patients, a lot of the cardiology patients are Medicare.
Yes.
So then you get cardiology consults. Thank you to all my cardiologists that send me patients.
Yes, thank you, cardiology.
But then we can't get them for them.
No.
So it's upsetting. It's frustrating. And the cardiac risk reduction with these medications, the studies are ongoing. I mean, they just keep doing it. And another study that they're talking about that they're currently doing too is for addictive behavior on these medications. So like, I don't know if you've noticed, but any of your patients that drink alcohol, and then their alcohol consumption's down just being on this medication.
Absolutely.
Because, so there's studies now looking at that aspect of it. And I've prescribed it to patients who are not necessarily true alcoholics, I could say. I mean, that's not my true specialty, but patients that may drink 3-4 drinks 3-4 times a week and they don't want to drink that much, they're down to like one drink.
You're doing it because they have obesity issues, not just because they're coming in saying I drink alcohol.
Absolutely.
Right? But I know what you mean.
But like it goes back to that, I'm drinking my calories, right? So, and then they go and their alcohol's down, 75% of what it was before they were on the medication. So it's huge, So there's a lot of really good studies right now going on with these medications, and I'm very excited to continue watching it unfold.
Absolutely. And, I've been told by some patients that come in that these medications, the GLP-1s, that they shut off that chatter in their mind.
Food noise,
of focusing on eating, right?
Yeah, they're not
thinking about what's going to be for dinner while they're having breakfast.
Yeah, right. And that's part of the mechanism of action, so it's really, so if you say miracle drug, for a lot of patients, it has been their miracle.
True, and that's what I when I say miracle, I my thought is when you think of miracle, people think it's just something that happens spontaneously. There's nothing that needs to go along with it. It just is what's being done. Excuse me, but it's a miracle drug in the sense that it's helping a lot of people for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I was just reading.
Sorry, I was choking.
Yeah, no, and I was just reading this thing here that Mike pulled up too. And we know this, but it just says, the GLP receptors in the brain, they're believed to be involved in the reward and the addiction. Hence, where
Food.
Yeah.
Too. Always as an avoid an addiction. Mhm.
Right,
Absolutely.
for sure. So food, alcohol, whatever it is, these medications they are proving that it's not just food related either. So, which is really cool and helpful for a lot of patients. But again, only 40% of insurance companies cover these medications.
Yeah.
And, in their last podcast, we talked about the newest one very, very briefly, Zepbound, which is trizepatide, or Mounjaro, which is
geared for diabetics.
Yep.
Right. So that is a diabetic medication. So when you go and you come to see providers like us or your primary care provider, excuse me, I'm going to sneeze.
bless you.
Thank you. Don't go in there saying, I want to be on Mounjaro, and the primary care provider says, okay, but then it doesn't get covered because if you're not a type 2 diabetic, it won't be covered by your insurance.
Right. So again, back to the only 40% coverage. Zepbound is new. It was approved, October?
Yeah, end of October-ish. Many formularies where we get medications from are not really covering it yet until the first of the, after the first of the year. Well, now we're 2024.
Because they update it,
right? Because they update, as we switch from 2023 to 2024.
Hoping the formularies will be updated.
Yes, exactly.
To include that. I'm hopeful that the insurance companies that are already covering the anti-obesity medications
will continue to do so, right?
and add Zepbound on there, because I do love Mounjaro. I do love it. I see patients do very, very well on it with maybe some less side effects than some of the other ones.
Right.
I'm yet
the ones that get it for type 2 diabetes,
absolutely
they have a weight loss with it, right?
And they do amazing.
Yeah.
I take that back. I think I've prescribed Zepbound three times because I knew it would get approved. Otherwise, I'm not doing it because it's not on formulary. What about you?
Same. So I have seen many of my diabetic patients who we've changed things through the other GLP-1s, right? Who are on Trulicity and Victoza, who had done relatively well, but again, looking at A1C, right? Because that's how we make those decisions to move along, and then had to move to Ozempic, right? And then jumping to Mounjaro was the best thing for them, and it really brought their blood sugar, their A1Cs more under control, and had a better outcome of weight loss, which again then helped their diabetes. But for my patients that are on the anti-obesity medicine side, it's always been Saxenda or Wegovy, and I was able to. I've actually only got approval for one of my patients to move from Wegovy to Zepbound, because at that time there were two formularies, and you know which ones they were, and I'm not going to call them out here. Two formularies that had allowed coverage for it. But the other people that I've tried to send it through who had coverage for Ozempic or who had coverage for Saxenda or Wegovy didn't get approved. So I only have actually one person on Zepbound that I was able to get approved.
Yeah. So hopefully, in the next coming weeks, things will change.
Yeah, usually first quarter, a lot of things change with people's insurances and formularies and medications. So again, the GLP-1s are great medications.
They don't come without risks.
They don't come without risks, right? Please make dietary changes with them, lifestyle modifications and lifestyle changes. And if you're wondering, anybody listening is wondering, call your insurance company and specifically ask anti-obesity medications.
Coverage.
Anti-obesity medications. And if it's surgical route, which you'll talk again in a future podcast, you have to ask for bariatric surgical coverage. They're two different. So if they say weight loss, yes, we cover weight loss meds, then I would say without a diabetic diagnosis, that would be me. But yeah.
Yeah.
And another thing, when they say cover, ask what the copay is going to be. Because I've had patients come back and say, my insurance company says it's covered. And then when I sent it in, the insurance company covered only $400 of it, and they require the patient to pay $800 a month of it. And they're like, they didn't lie. So you need to ask that percentage of coverage.
Right. And I mean, some of them do have some savings cards,
Yeah.
but still, it's a significant amount of money. And most people can't pay that out of pocket, Zepbound is about $1,100, right, out of pocket.
And with their savings card, you have to have an insurance company that covers weight loss meds, but not a full coverage or partial coverage, and not a state-funded insurance and not Medicare. But even on there, with that card, it's roughly $560 a month, which for many people, myself included, $560, there's a whole lot else I can do with that. But I get it. I totally get it. Thankfully, our insurance covers weight loss meds. Like, for example, Wegovy cost me $25 a month. Now, out of pocket, it would probably be, like $1,400, $1,500?
15 or, yeah.
Yeah, no. No, ma'am.
It's a lot. But, this topic is, of course,
it's always going to be ongoing, and it's always, and I'm sure anybody listening can hear the passion, the irritation, the excitement in our voices, because as providers, it frustrates us that we can't help everybody we want to help because insurance blocks us. At the same time, it frustrates us because the patients coming for help don't want to help themselves sometimes, right? They want the quick fix. We're a society of quick fixes. When I was 425 and now down to 220, I wanted it overnight too. Ladies and gentlemen, they, them, everybody, it does not happen overnight, right? Take the small steps and keep moving forward. Slow and steady wins the race.
That's right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We're not all Oprah.
No. And I
love you, Oprah.
And, some people, you're right. And the Kardashians and everything, they all can, they pay for these medications out of pocket, and that's just not the reality for the majority of people. Right. So, we're here to educate and to
help.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
And understand the struggles. Because it is a struggle. So, on that note, thank you for joining us in this first podcast of 2024. Right?
Yes, we're excited for the coming year and future podcasts and
all of you listening to us.
Absolutely.
Giving suggestions. Hey, if you want to hear about a topic, send us an email. Comment on something. Let us know what you want to hear about, right? Otherwise, you're going to keep hearing what Amy and I want to talk about.
Which may or may not be good.
Which may or may not be good, but, we hope it's good. But anyway, you can reach out to us on thehealthytruth.net, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. Or just stop Amy and I in the street.
Yeah, you never know when you may run into us.
Yeah. All right, guys, until next time, I'm Ben.
And I'm Amy.
And we are The Heavy Truth.